The unexpected encounter. Dr. Sarah Chen stared through the reinforced windows of her research facility, watching as the aurora borealis painted ethereal patterns across the Alaskan sky. The isolation of the remote research station had become both her sanctuary and prison since the devastating loss of her entire research team in a lab accident 2 years ago. Now she conducted her breakthrough medical research alone, pushing the boundaries of human cellular regeneration in self-imposed exile. The facility's proximity alarm shattered her contemplation. Sarah's eyes darted to the security feed, expecting to see another curious polar bear. Instead, her breath caught in her throat. A massive crystalline structure, unlike anything she'd ever seen, had crashed into the frozen tundra less than a mile from her facility. The object's surface pulsed with a fading bioluminescent glow, and through the facility's thermal imaging, she could detect a rapidly cooling heat signature. Years of medical training kicked in as she spotted what appeared to be movement within the structure. Someone, or something, was alive in there. Sarah rushed to her equipment room, donning thermal gear and gathering emergency medical supplies. The rational part of her mind screamed that she should contact the authorities, but something deeper drove her forward. She hadn't been able to save her team, but maybe she could save whoever was in that crystal ship. The bitter Arctic wind bit through her layers as she trudged through the snow. As she approached the crash site, the crystalline structure began to fracture, revealing what lay within. The sight stopped her in her tracks. A humanoid figure, easily 7 feet tall, lay partially ejected from the cockpit. Its skin shimmered with iridescent patterns that seemed to shift and fade with each labored breath. The alien's eyes snapped open as Sarah approached, revealing swirling galaxies of silver and gold. Despite its imposing size, the creature's movements were weak, desperate. Help, it transmitted directly into her mind, the telepathic message carrying undertones of pain and fear that transcended species barriers. Sarah's medical scanner revealed devastating internal injuries, but the alien's biology was like nothing she'd ever seen. Its cellular structure was breaking down at an alarming rate, possibly due to some kind of radiation exposure. The creature's blood, a stunning mercury-like substance, was failing to carry enough oxygen to its tissues. Drawing upon years of research into experimental cellular regeneration, Sarah made a split-second decision. Her own blood, enhanced by her groundbreaking research, might be compatible enough to save this being's life. The risk of rejection was enormous, but doing nothing meant certain death. "I'm going to try to help you," she spoke clearly, meeting those cosmic eyes. "But I need you to trust me." The alien's response came as a weak mental acknowledgement, tinged with gratitude and resignation. Using her emergency medical kit and the portable filtration system she designed for her research, Sarah began the dangerous process of blood transfusion. As her enhanced blood entered the alien system, the reaction was immediate and dramatic. The iridescent patterns across its skin flared brilliantly, and its entire body convulsed. For several terrifying moments, Sarah feared she'd killed her patient. Then, gradually, the alien's vital signs began to stabilize. The cellular degradation slowed, then stopped entirely. Her enhanced blood wasn't just keeping the creature alive. It was somehow integrating with its biological system in ways that defied explanation. As Sarah worked through the night to stabilize her patient, she couldn't shake the feeling that this encounter would change everything. She had no way of knowing that her act of compassion would not only save a life, but trigger a chain of events that would reshape humanity's destiny. The alien, whom she would later know as Nexus, was no ordinary space traveler. As a member of the Stellar Guardians, an ancient organization dedicated to protecting developing civilizations, Nexus had been pursuing a grave threat to Earth when their ship was attacked. Now, as human blood coursed through their veins, creating unprecedented changes in their biology, the fate of two species became inexorably intertwined. Outside, the aurora continued its celestial dance, bearing witness to a moment that would be remembered in the histories of two civilizations. Within the research facility, As Sarah monitored her unprecedented patient, the first threads of an impossible connection began to form, one that would challenge everything both species thought they knew about the boundaries of life, love, and evolution. Blood and trust. The week following the transfusion brought changes that defied everything Sarah thought she knew about biology. She watched in fascination as Nexus's body underwent a remarkable transformation. The crystalline patterns beneath their skin now pulsed in perfect synchronization with their heartbeat, and their originally mercury-like blood had taken on a hybrid composition that her instruments struggled to analyze. Sarah's research facility, once a monument to isolation, had become a crucible of discovery. Her medical bay, originally designed for human patients, now housed equipment hastily modified to accommodate her alien guest. Nexus recovery was nothing short of miraculous, though it came with unexpected developments that kept both doctor and patient on edge. "Your blood." Nexus communicated telepathically while Sarah checked their vital signs. "It carries memories." Their mental voice had grown stronger, more distinct, carrying subtle harmonics that reminded Sarah of distant wind chimes. "I see fragments of your past, your pain, your determination." Sarah paused in her examination, startled by this revelation. "You can access my memories through my blood." The implications were staggering. She had known her research into cellular regeneration had altered her own biology in subtle ways, but this level of information transfer was unprecedented. "Not access," Nexus corrected, their silver-gold eyes tracking her movements. "Experience. Your blood carries emotional imprints. I feel your grief for your lost team, your dedication to healing, your—" They hesitated, searching for the right word, "your loneliness." The admission hung in the air between them. Sarah turned away, busying herself with equipment adjustments to hide her discomfort. She had spent 2 years building walls around those emotions, and now they were laid bare to an alien being she barely knew. "My species, the Lumini," Nexus continued, sensing her unease. "We share memories through bioluminescent patterns. But this connection through blood, it's different, deeper." They extended one long, elegant finger, tracing a pattern in the air that shimmered briefly before fading. "Your blood is changing me in ways I don't fully understand." Sarah's scientific curiosity overtook her emotional discomfort. "The changes aren't just physical, are they?" She pulled up recent scan results on her holoscreen, displaying the complex molecular structures that had formed in Nexus's bloodstream. "Your cellular structure is integrating human DNA sequences, but maintaining its core stability. It's like nothing I've ever seen." "There's more." Nexus's mental voice carried an undercurrent of urgency. "My mission, the reason I was near your planet, I can no longer keep it hidden from you. Not with this connection between us." They attempted to sit up, their towering frames still awkward in the human-sized medical bay. "Earth is in danger." Sarah helped steady them, noting how their skin temperature now matched her own. "Another adaptation from the transfusion." "What kind of danger?" "The Void Collective." Nexus's mental voice darkened. "They're an advanced civilization that believes in evolutionary purity. They seek out worlds with developing spacefaring races, and—" They paused, the patterns beneath their skin dimming with distress. "They eliminate what they consider genetic contamination." Sarah's blood ran cold. "And Earth is their next target." "Yes, I was sent to warn your world's governments, to help prepare defenses. But my ship was attacked before I could deliver the message." Nexus's eyes met hers. "The irony is not lost on me. In saving my life with your blood, you've created exactly the kind of genetic hybridization the collective seeks to prevent." Sarah processed this information, her mind racing through implications. "How long do we have?" "Months, perhaps. Their primary fleet moves slowly to avoid detection." Nexus's patterns shifted to a rapid, anxious rhythm. "But there's something else. Something unexpected." They placed a hand over their abdomen, where the luminescent patterns had begun to form intricate, never-before-seen configurations. Your enhanced blood isn't just changing my existing cells, it's creating something new. Sarah's medical scanners began picking up anomalous readings. She stared at the data in disbelief, running the analysis 3 times to confirm what she was seeing. The results remained the same. Within Nexus's body, human and Lumini DNA had combined to create viable reproductive cells. "You're pregnant," Sarah whispered, the words feeling foreign on her tongue. "But that's impossible. The biological differences alone." "Impossible seems to be a recurring theme since I met you," Nexus observed, their mental voice carrying a mix of wonder and concern. "Your research into cellular regeneration, combined with my species' adaptive biology, we've created something unprecedented." As if in response to their discussion, the patterns beneath Nexus's skin began to pulse with new intensity, forming shapes that reminded Sarah of double helixes and cellular structures. She realized they were watching their own body adapt and evolve in real time. Outside the facility, the Arctic winter raged on, oblivious to the miraculous and potentially catastrophic developments taking place within. Sarah Chen, who had sought isolation to escape her past, now found herself at the center of a situation that would determine humanity's future. And Nexus, sent to Earth as a guardian, had become something more, a bridge between species, carrying within them the first evidence that humanity's future might lie in the stars after all. The question that haunted them both was whether this miracle of biology would have time to come to fruition before the Void Collective arrived to pass their judgment on Earth. Hidden truths. The first signs of spring brought with them both hope and dread. As the Arctic ice began its annual retreat, Sarah's facility had transformed from a medical research station into a combination of xenobiology lab and war room. 3 months had passed since the blood transfusion, and every day brought new discoveries and new concerns. Nexus stood at the observation window, their now 8-foot frame casting a long shadow in the midnight sun. The pregnancy had triggered another growth spurt, but it wasn't just their height that had changed. The luminescent patterns beneath their skin had developed into complex networks that Sarah suspected were an entirely new organ system. "They're getting closer," Nexus announced, their mental voice resonating with tension. "I can feel their probe signals now." They placed one hand against the window, the patterns beneath their skin reflecting off the reinforced glass. "The Void Collective's advanced scouts are already in the solar system." Sarah looked up from her workstation, where she'd been analyzing the latest scan results of their developing child. "How many ships?" 3 scout vessels, using quantum masking technology. Nexus turned to face her, their eyes now showing hints of green. Another unexpected mutation from the human DNA. "But that's not what worries me. The probes they're sending. They're designed to detect genetic anomalies, and we're creating the biggest anomaly they could imagine." Sarah unconsciously touched the fresh scar on her arm, where she'd been taking regular tissue samples to study the ongoing changes in her own biology. The blood connection hadn't just changed Nexus. It had altered her as well. Her cellular regeneration rate had increased exponentially, and she'd begun developing a rudimentary form of the Lumini's bioluminescent signaling. "The baby's development is accelerating," she reported, pulling up a holographic display of their child's DNA structure. "The hybrid genetics are creating something entirely new. Look at these protein sequences. They're unlike anything in either human or Lumini biology." Nexus moved closer, their presence sending tingles of shared awareness through Sarah's enhanced nervous system. The emotional bleed between them had grown stronger with each passing week. "Show me," they requested, both verbally and through the deepening psychic bond they shared. Sarah expanded the hologram, highlighting specific genetic markers. "The fetus is developing characteristics of both species, but it's more than just a combination. These new sequences suggest capabilities we haven't seen before. Enhanced regeneration, advanced neural plasticity, and something here." She pointed to a particularly complex strand that could be an entirely new form of cellular energy production. "A perfect fusion of both worlds," Nexus mused, their patterns shifting to match the DNA display. Perhaps this is why the Void Collective fears genetic mixing so much. Not because it dilutes purity, but because it creates something stronger than either original species. A sudden alert from the facility's perimeter sensors interrupted their discussion. Sarah quickly pulled up the security feeds, her heart racing. On the screens, 3 black-clad figures moved with inhuman precision through the Arctic landscape. Void Collective assassins. Nexus's mental voice was tight with alarm. They're using personal cloaking technology. Your cameras shouldn't be able to see them at all. They can't, Sarah replied grimly. My systems are picking up your bioluminescent warning patterns and extrapolating their positions. Somehow, our connection is letting the facility's AI interpret your species' threat detection abilities. The assassins were getting closer, their movements suggesting they knew exactly where they were going. Sarah quickly initiated the facility's lockdown procedures, but Nexus caught her arm. We can't stay here, they insisted. Even if we survive this attack, they'll just send more. And now that they've detected us, the main fleet will accelerate its approach. Their patterns pulsed with determination. We need to go public. Humanity needs to know what's coming. Sarah stared at the advancing figures, her mind racing through scenarios. The world's governments will never believe us in time, not without proof. She turned to Nexus, a desperate plan forming. But I know someone who might help. My old research partner, Dr. James Martinez. He's working on quantum communications at CERN now. If we can reach him, prove what's happening. Your species' particle physics research. Nexus's patterns brightened with realization. Of course. The Void Collective uses quantum entanglement for their fleet coordination. If we can disrupt that. Another alarm blared. The assassins had breached the outer perimeter. Sarah quickly gathered her essential research data and medical supplies. We'll need to take the emergency tunnel. I built it after the lab accident, though I never thought I'd be using it to escape alien assassins. As they hurried to the hidden exit, Sarah felt a sudden flutter of movement through her connection with Nexus. Their child, responding to the danger, had created a new pattern of bioluminescence that spread through both parents' bodies, enhancing their strength and speed. The baby's protecting us. Nexus communicated, wonder mixing with urgency in their thoughts. It's already learning to adapt, to survive. Sarah activated the tunnel's entrance, revealing a narrow passage that would lead them to a concealed vehicle bay. As they descended into the escape route, she couldn't help but smile grimly at the irony. She had come to the Arctic seeking isolation, seeking to escape her past failures. Now she was running not just for her own life, but for the future of 2 species and the remarkable new life they had created together. Behind them, the first explosion rocked the facility, but they were already moving through the tunnel, their shared determination lighting the way forward. The race to save Earth had begun, and their unborn child might just be the key to humanity's survival. The price of survival. The streets of Geneva were eerily quiet as Sarah and Nexus approached CERN's main complex. 6 weeks had passed since their escape from Alaska, 6 weeks of constant movement and narrow escapes. The Void Collective's presence could no longer be hidden. Their massive ships now hung in Earth's orbit like dark stars, visible to anyone who looked up at the night sky. Nexus's pregnancy had progressed at an astronomical rate, their abdomen now housing a softly glowing chamber visible through their adaptive camouflage suit. The hybrid child within had continued to develop remarkable abilities, creating a protective field that had saved them more than once during their journey. James's lab is in Building 40, Sarah whispered, leading them through shadows cast by the Large Hadron Collider's massive infrastructure. He's been expecting us since my message, but we'll have to move quickly. The Collective's ground forces are everywhere now. The world had changed dramatically in the past month. When the first Void Collective ships appeared openly in orbit, governments had scrambled to respond. Some wanted to attack immediately, others to attempt diplomatic contact. But the Collective had made their intentions clear. Earth was to be purified of what they deemed genetic contamination. Nexus suddenly stopped, their patterns flaring with warning beneath their camouflage. Multiple signatures approaching. They're using quantum-shifted frequencies. Your human technology shouldn't be able to detect them. But you can, Sarah completed the thought. Their shared blood connection allowing her to sense the danger through Nexus's enhanced perception. How many? 5. No, 6. Nexus's hand moved protectively to their abdomen, where their child's bioluminescence had begun pulsing in an alert pattern. They're trying to surround us. Sarah pulled out a small device she'd been working on during their journey, a prototype based on her studies of Nexus's biology. Then it's time to test my quantum disruption field, if I'm right about how their cloaking technology works. She activated the device. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, like ghosts materializing from thin air, 6 figures in sleek black armor appeared around them, their cloaking systems scrambled by Sarah's invention. Impressive, Nexus commented, their patterns shifting to combat readiness. But now they can see us too. The Void Collective assassins moved with mechanical precision, their weapons charging with an ominous hum. But before they could fire, something extraordinary happened. The hybrid child within Nexus released a pulse of energy that expanded outward in a dome of shifting light, its genetic heritage manifesting in ways neither parent had anticipated. The assassin's weapons flickered and died, their advanced technology rendered useless by the child's spontaneous defense mechanism. In the same moment, Sarah felt her own enhanced biology responding, her cells charged with newfound energy as the baby's protective field synchronized with both its parents. "Run," Sarah commanded, grabbing Nexus's hand as they dashed toward Building 40. Behind them, the assassins pursued on foot, their movements hampered by their now useless technological enhancements. They reached the building's security entrance, where Dr. James Martinez was already waiting, his eyes widening at the sight of Nexus's true form as they dropped their camouflage. "Sarah, what the hell?" he managed, even as he ushered them inside. "Your message said it was important, but this—" "James, I know it's a lot." Sarah cut him off, hurrying them toward his lab. "But right now we need access to Siorn's quantum communication array. The Void Collective's ships are all connected through quantum entanglement. If we can disrupt that network, we might be able to stop their coordination." James finished, his scientific curiosity overtaking this shock. "But the power requirements would be enormous. We'd need to repurpose the entire collider." They reached the lab, where banks of sophisticated equipment hummed with potential. Nexus moved to a central console, their patterns interfacing directly with the human technology in ways that should have been impossible. "The baby," Sarah explained, seeing James's astonished expression. "Its hybrid DNA allows for direct neural interfaces with both biological and technological systems. It's been protecting us, helping us, even before being born. A true bridge between worlds," Nexus added, their mental voice now strong enough to be heard by James as well. "And perhaps the key to saving both our species." The lab's monitors suddenly flared to life, displaying real-time data from Earth's orbital satellites. The Void Collective's fleet had begun to move, their massive ships taking up attack positions around the planet. "They're starting their purification protocol," Nexus announced grimly. "We have hours at most." Sarah quickly began connecting her quantum disruption prototype to Siorn's main systems, while James worked to redirect power from the collider. The child within Nexus seemed to sense the gravity of the moment, its bioluminescent patterns synchronizing with the facility's power grid in perfect harmony. "What we're attempting," James warned as he made the final connections, "it's never been done before. The energy requirements alone could overload every power grid in Europe." "We don't have a choice," Sarah replied, her hand steady as she calibrated the frequencies. "Either we try this, or humanity faces extinction." She looked at Nexus, their shared blood connection carrying waves of determination and hope between them. "And it's not just humanity we're fighting for anymore." Outside, the first signs of the Void Collective's attack began to manifest. Strange lights in the sky, disruptions in global communications, But within CERN's underground complex, something unprecedented was about to take place. A fusion of human ingenuity, alien technology, and the impossible potential of their hybrid child. As they prepared to activate the system, Sarah felt a powerful movement through her connection with Nexus. Their child, nearly ready to enter the world, was somehow aware of what was at stake. Its bioluminescent patterns had begun to pulse in perfect synchronization with CERN's quantum arrays, as if it understood exactly what needed to be done. The future of two species now rested on the success of their desperate plan, and on the extraordinary being about to be born into a world on the brink of transformation. Legacy of Two Worlds. The massive underground chamber of CERN's control center hummed with unprecedented energy as Sarah, Nexus, and James worked to integrate their hybrid child's unique abilities with the facility's quantum communications array. Above ground, the Void Collective's attack had begun in earnest, their ships methodically disrupting Earth's defense systems through quantum-linked precision strikes. Energy synchronization at 80%, James called out, his fingers dancing across multiple holographic interfaces. But the power draw is destabilizing the European grid. We're getting emergency shutdowns across 6 countries. Sarah barely heard him, her attention fixed on Nexus, who had begun to emanate waves of bioluminescence that filled the chamber with shifting patterns of light. The pregnancy had reached its final stage, their child's imminent arrival somehow aligned with this crucial moment. The baby knows. Nexus communicated, their mental voice resonating with a mixture of pain and purpose. It's waiting for the perfect moment of quantum alignment. Their patterns pulsed in sync with the facility's power fluctuations, creating harmonics that shouldn't have been possible between biological and mechanical systems. Suddenly, the chamber's main display lit up with urgent warnings. Multiple breaches in the facility's outer security. James reported grimly. The Void Collective found us. Their ground forces are converging on our position. Let them come, Sarah said with quiet determination, activating her latest version of the quantum disruption field around the chamber. We just need a few more minutes. She moved to Nexus's side, their shared blood connection allowing her to feel the approaching moment of birth with crystal clarity. The chamber's massive doors shuddered under heavy impact. The collective's forces had reached them, their weapons attempting to breach Sarah's defensive field. But something extraordinary was happening within that protected space. The hybrid child's bioluminescent patterns had begun to extend beyond Nexus's body, creating complex three-dimensional structures in the air that mirrored the quantum entanglement patterns of the Void Collective's fleet. It's not just disrupting their network, James breathed in amazement, watching the readings on his instruments. It's rewriting it. The baby is somehow accessing their entire quantum communication system from within the womb. A tremendous crash announced the breach of the outer doors. Void Collective soldiers poured into the chamber, their black armor absorbing light like pieces of moving darkness, but they stopped short at the sight before them. Nexus had risen into the air, suspended by a web of living light emanating from their abdomen. Now, Nexus gasped, their patterns flaring with blinding intensity. The child comes now. The moment of birth coincided with perfect quantum alignment. As their hybrid child emerged into the world, a pulse of pure energy radiated outward through the collective's entangled network. Every ship in orbit, every soldier on the ground, found their quantum-based technology transformed by the touch of a consciousness that represented the very thing they had fought to prevent. The perfect union of different species. The child, a being of living light and solid form, floated in the space between its parents. Its first cry wasn't a sound, but a wave of pure information that reached every quantum-linked system on and above Earth. Through their shared connection, Sarah and Nexus could feel their child's first thoughts. Not fear or confusion, but a deep understanding of its purpose. The Void Collective soldiers lowered their weapons, their neural interfaces overwhelmed by the child's presence in their network. Through their eyes, Sarah could see the same scene playing out in orbit. The massive ships, poised to destroy Earth, hung motionless as their crews experienced something unprecedented. the touch of a mind that proved diversity wasn't weakness, but the ultimate source of strength. This is what they feared, Nexus realized, cradling their child as they descended. Not that different species would weaken each other, but that together they could become something greater than the sum of their parts. The child reached out, touching the nearest collective soldier with a gentle tendril of light. In that moment, the soldier's armor transformed, its light-absorbing surface beginning to emit the same bioluminescent patterns as its hybrid contact. The change spread through the quantum network, affecting every piece of collective technology it touched. "They're not just connected anymore," James announced, watching the data streams with amazement. "Their entire network is being converted into a new form of quantum biological interface. The child isn't destroying their technology, it's evolving it." Sarah moved to join her newfound family, her own enhanced biology resonating with the waves of transformation spreading across the chamber. It was never about winning a war, she understood at last. It was about showing them a better way. The child's patterns shifted, forming complex symbols that both its parents could somehow read. It was proposing a new future, one where the Void Collective's fear of change could be transformed into an understanding of evolution's true potential. Through their hybrid child, humanity would gain access to the stars, while the collective would learn the strength that comes from embracing diversity. Hours later, as the transformed collective ships began withdrawing from Earth's orbit, Sarah stood with Nexus and their child in Sioran's observation deck. The hybrid infant, now wrapped in a cocoon of shifting light, had already begun communicating with scientists worldwide, sharing insights that would revolutionize human understanding of both biology and physics. "What should we name it?" Sarah asked, watching their child's patterns dance in response to the stars above. Nexus's response came through their deepened bond, carrying echoes of both their species' traditions. "Aurora, a new dawn for both our worlds." As if in response, Aurora's bioluminescent patterns brightened, casting rainbow reflections across the Geneva night. In orbit, the last of the collective's ships displayed the same colors, a signal that the age of isolation was over. Humanity had not only survived its first major interstellar crisis, but had helped create a bridge between civilizations that would change the course of galactic history. Sarah's quest for medical breakthroughs in isolation had led to something far greater than she could have imagined. Proof that the future belonged not to those who maintained their purity, but to those brave enough to reach across the stars and forge connections that defied imagination.